Like you lost Ben Roethlisberger and Stephon Tuitt, the big player on both sides of the ball early. A lot of people wrote you off. What would it mean for this team to make the playoffs without those two?
I hadn't thought about it in terms of without those two or people writing us off. I'm just focused on the games and winning this game this week and letting the chips fall where they may. The standard is a standard for. It's not just a cliche, it's what we live by. So all the variables that you mentioned are irrelevant to us. Our agenda is the same when we embark on these journeys that are seasons. And so, that's where we are with it.
Mike, are Duck's interception problems a product of the actual physical throws or a matter of the decisions that he makes to prevent and
doesn't matter? Seriously. We got to take care of football. You can make a bad decision, but a ridiculous, awesome throw, and it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? I mean that in all sincerity. We got to take care of the football, and some of that minutia is less important about intentions relative to performance.
And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Brodge Ritchie, here on the Mass Steel Podcast.
This thing belongs to Mr. Rooney, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring this damn thing back in next year, along with the Super Bowl. Here we go.
The game is over. The Pittsburgh Steelers give it hard play.
With the 10th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush,
And welcome back, everybody, to this edition here of the Meta Steel Podcast with yours truly, Charles Brodge Ritchie. And we're getting ready to count down as we are right now, as a matter of fact, a little less than 3 days away from the Steelers' final game of the season to find out what their fate will entail at the end of this Sunday, if they will make the playoffs or not. Remember, just to recap, how Steelers can get in the playoffs: either a win or Steelers tie plus a Titans loss, or it could also be a win plus a Titans loss or tie. So again, a Steelers win or tie plus a Titans loss, or it could be a Steelers win plus a Titans loss or tie. Or the third scenario is if the Steelers lose and the Titans lose. So remember, Steelers win or tie plus a Titans loss, or a Steelers win plus a Titans loss or tie. Scenario number 3 would be if the Steelers or Titans do have to end up losing, the Raiders would need to lose to the Broncos. Steelers would get in that way. The Colts, even though despite being out of the playoffs, they are still 3-2 in the AFC South, right behind the Tennessee Titans by a game. So if they're able to win that game, they will go 4-2 in the divisional record, while the Titans, who are currently 2-3, would drop to 2-4. Colts will leapfrog them. They'll officially eliminate the Titans from playoff contention at that point, as long as the Raiders lose. But let's just say if the Steelers and Titans did lose, And then let's just say, oh, by the way, my bad. So the Steelers Titans lose, Colts would have to beat the Jaguars, and the Raiders would have to lose to the Broncos. That's what I meant. But let's just say if the Steelers lose, Titans lose, Colts do beat the Jaguars, but however the Raiders beat the Broncos, the Steelers would need the Bears, Lions, Chargers, and Patriots to lose in order to get in the playoffs. So again, Steelers win or tie plus a Titans loss, or we'd be looking at a Steelers win plus a Titans loss or tie, or a Steelers and Titans, if they lose, they would need the Raiders to lose to the Broncos, or if the Steelers and Titans lose and the Colts beat the Jaguars, but the Raiders end up beating the Broncos, need the Lions, Bears, Chargers, and Patriots to lose in order for the Steelers to get in. Again, the phone lines are open right here. Again, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Prodigy Richie, at Masteel CJR. And if you guys want to find the Masteel Podcast Facebook page for the first time, once you type up and look up Masteel Podcast, you'll see me with the logo with the shirt being ripped, and it's like a Steelers logo right there. Once you do like it, all you can just do simply next time is search at Masteel Nation. That's capital M, capital S, capital N. You can also catch me streaming live right now on my Instagram stream, Masteel Nation, and of course my YouTube channel, Masteel Podcast. So right now there was some roster moves announced that was yesterday, as a matter of fact, or the last 2 days. Let's start off with Missy Matthews saying that Mason Rudolph has been placed on IR with a shoulder injury. Maurkice Pouncey will be out for the final game of the season with a knee injury and doesn't know the extent. And James Conner is very much in question with a quad injury. This is Missy Matthews reporting off of Mike Tomlin's Tuesday press conference. He usually has whenever it's during the season, his weekly press conference. For any of those finding out, if you're in the East Coast, it could be 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Midwest, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, or on the West Coast, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And right now, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, you got like right now, I mean, BJ Finney, who's pretty much done a phenomenal job. I mean, holding down the fort at the backup center position for the Steelers. I mean, overall in Pouncey's career, I think it was just a freak accident that happened. I mean, as soon as he comes out of the game, I mean, pretty much you have this guy, I mean, botch a snap and causing for Mason Rudolph to land awkwardly. But at the same time, too, I mean, look at what happened. I mean, he seemed like he was okay at first, Maurkice. But then as soon as he started, like, walking a little bit, you saw there was, like, a little bit of a pop with his knee. It might have been an ACL. We're not too sure, like, the extent. But like I said, again, Maurkice Pouncey, he has a knee injury. Not too sure the severity of it. But for right now, if the Steelers were to get in the playoffs, it's not even for sure if he'll even be back. But speaking of playoffs, let's just say if the Steelers are able to get the easiest scenario to happen, a Steelers win or tie plus a Titans loss. If the Steelers are able to make it past the wild card round, let's just say they get into the playoffs, they end up facing the Chiefs, or let's just say the Texans tag up that number 3 seed from the Chiefs, and the Chiefs slip up. I mean, Chiefs are still fighting for a first-round bye since beating the Patriots head-to-head. But let's just say if the Steelers were able to get in miraculously somehow, and if we're going in right now, I will say this. I mean, they got 2 guys who they right now that was announced a few hours ago. And this was being reported by Dale Lally of at DK Pittsburgh Sports. You can follow on Twitter at DLally_PGH. Right now, they had 2 guys designated to return talking about none other than starting fullback Roosevelt Nix and also wide receiver Ryan Switzer. Now, both are eligible to resume practicing, but they won't be eligible to play right now, of course, for the final game of the season. Or, like I said, they make it to the playoffs in the wild card round, they won't be eligible either. So we're talking about, if that were to happen, I mean, when you look at it, it will be in the divisional round. If the Steelers are able to get in and advance and get that far, it's still a long ways to go, but that's your current update on it right now as we take a look. But, yeah, I mean, for right now, it's just one step at a time. And let's take a moment to think about things, everything. I know it's been a frustrating last 2 weeks. You look at how far this team has come throughout the season. After starting off 1-4, I mean, when you really digest a lot of things, the Steeler team, let's be honest. I mean, from the injuries, from losing your quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, giving up the first and third round draft picks, did you honestly feel like the Steelers would be in this position after everything's started? I mean, obviously they had a horrific offense. I mean, to begin, that's first and foremost. I mean, which is still ranked towards the bottom. I mean, of this league. But I mean, still, you got a defense that's just been nothing but playing lights out football, 60 minutes, forcing a lot of takeaways. But as you can see right now, there's been a lot of tolls to be paid when playing as high as they did. I just believe the Steelers right now, they are playing, like I said, they've been playing desperation football all the way through. But as well, you know as well as I know, I mean, the Steelers, for the moments they had, this has been an outstanding job by Mike Tomlin and his staff. I mean, more in particular, I mean, when you also look at guys like Keith Butler, Terrell Austin is another one, too. I'm not too sure how many people are giving him a little bit of credit where credit's due. Because remember, he was a guy that was here to come in and assist with the defense. And, I mean, this is a guy who coached, I mean, at University of Pitt Panthers, former Bengals assistant coach on defense. But, I mean, him just being a Pittsburgh guy, too, I mean, that was one of the biggest attractions right there. I mean, I think it's just incredible right there. I mean, for a team who's always been trying to preach as far as getting enough takeaways, getting off the field quicker, and not only that, but also just working along the way, getting takeaways for scores. This is a team who's just been all dialed in. I just feel with the concern when I look at things, it's been, you know, a tale of two cities. It's been the best of times. It's been the worst of times. But at the same time, too, when you look at where you get to this far, you don't want to be making excuses for Tomlin and his staff with the injuries. Obviously, injuries are going to play a part of it. Don't get me wrong. But it's always at the end of the day going to be focusing the execution, I think, first and foremost. And I think that's what it looks at. Got some people joining in here. Fernando, Curly Sanchez. Sorry I took my time dragging my feet responding to you. Want to just say thank you very much for joining here on the Metal Steel Podcast. From Modesto, I want to say, if I'm not saying that incorrectly, feel free to correct me on the pronunciation if I said that wrong. To California, Steeler fan for life and the afterlife. There you go. That's what it's all about. I don't know about you, Fernando, but I want to just ask you real quickly. I mean, when you look at the Steelers, as I was detailing about late Monday night, and I was detailing the Steelers' history since going back as far as 1976, were at their playoff fate where they needed to win and have help, all time where the Steelers are at. Under Tomlin, they are right now 1-for-4 in that regard. The only time other Tomlin's watched they made it was in 2015. just to do a little quick recap, but the Steelers overall in their history, they are 4 for 8. As far as on the last game of the season where they had to win and get some help. I'm going to go over that real quickly. Brian Diarlo, thank you very much, bud. I appreciate you being on here. Thank you very much for the like. Just saw you here. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas as well as everybody did. Happy belated Merry Christmas once again. I know it's a little bit of a sad one in between, just waiting for the final season, but more importantly, always get to spend time with your families. I took it a little easy yesterday. Spent time with my mom and the 2 dogs, and that was good enough for me yesterday. But I just want to say right now, you look at the Steelers, like I mentioned. I mean, 1976, let's just recap the history once again, and I'll make this quick. But 1976, Steelers were in the quest trying to three-peat. Start off the season 1-4. Knock on wood. The last game of the season right now for the Steelers. Oh, Fernando, the number again, if you guys want to dial in, it's 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. Got right in the description. That's the show number you want to call in whenever I'm going live, okay? So 1976, you had the Steelers win against the Houston Oilers in the final game of the season. Plus, you needed the Bengals loss to the Raiders. If the Bengals would have won, they would have gotten the playoffs instead of the Steelers, but the Raiders did beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football. Steelers got in, and what ended up happening, they had a playoff win against the Baltimore Colts, which they dominated, but ended up falling short to the Raiders in Oakland with key injuries with Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier. Christmas miracle. 30 years ago yesterday in 1989, Steelers win in Tampa against the Bucks. They needed the Raiders to lose to the Giants. Check. They also in that game in that final week needed the Dolphins to lose to the Chiefs. Check. Needed the Colts to lose to the Saints. Check. And last but not least, the Bengals to lose to the Vikings. How ironically, 13 years later, needed the Bengals lose once again. They lost on Monday Night Football to the Vikings. Steelers get in. Win a wild card round against the Oilers, but then go on to lose to the eventual AFC champions, Denver Broncos. 1993, another memorable year of Steelers help. Steelers had to beat the Browns, and then not only did they beat the Browns, but they also needed the Dolphins to lose to the Patriots. Check. And they needed either Raiders or a Jets loss. And that happened. The Raiders ended up – no, it was Jets. The Jets, they actually lost to the Oilers. And then you also had, like, the Dolphins lose to the Patriots. So that was your playoff help in 1993. And then, of course, your last time the Steelers made the playoffs with help was, of course, 2015. Steelers beat the Browns in Cleveland, and they needed the Bills to beat the Jets in Buffalo. Bills won. Steelers get in. Well, of course, at the same time, taking care of their business. The times they did not get in was 2000, 2009, 2013, and, of course, last year, 2000. Steelers needed a win against the Chargers, plus they needed losses by the Jets and Colts. Jets lost to the Ravens. Steelers beat the Chargers. And the Vikings ended up resting their starters against the Colts because they feel like they had everything locked up. The Colts ended up taking advantage of that gracefully in Indianapolis. They beat them. They snagged the foul wild card spot that year. Steelers missed out. That was the first failed attempt not getting in. Then, of course, you had 2009 where the Steelers needed a win against the Dolphins. They also needed either a Houston or Jets loss or a Houston and Ravens loss or a Broncos, Jets, and one other team they needed to lose, the Ravens, Broncos, Jets, and Ravens. Either scenarios, Steelers ended up winning. Houston Texans ended up winning. Broncos did lose, so that what did that mean? They needed the Ravens to lose and the Jets to lose on Sunday night against the Bengals. Ravens dashed those plans by beating the Raiders in Oakland. And then you also had 2013, after having that horrific 0-4 start, going to 2-4, 2-6, 5-6, 5-8, 3-game winning streak. They had the teams they needed to lose. So Steelers needed to beat the Browns in Pittsburgh. Steelers also needed the Ravens to lose to the Bengals. Check, it happened. You also needed the Dolphins to lose to the Jets in Miami. Check, that happened. And then you needed the Chargers to lose to the Chiefs. Did not happen. Boy, I was pissed that night. I'm not going to lie to you. I was watching that. I was listening to that game on the radio on NFL Audio Pass before it was shown on TV later on, and just missed it due to a Ryan Succop missed field goal. But the refs and the league did admit later on there was a mistake where the Chargers had too many men, about 7 guys lined up on defending the kick, which should have been a penalty right there. And the Chiefs could have had an opportunity to re-kick. What ends up happening, they end up losing in overtime to the Chargers. Steelers missed the playoffs. And then, of course, last year, Steelers' only ticket way in was to beat the Bengals at home in Pittsburgh. They did. And then also, they needed the Browns to beat the Ravens in Baltimore. So that did not happen. Steelers ended up missing the playoffs. What ends up happening, you have a falling out situation with Antonio Brown, which was already starting to boil over during practice, like shortly after Christmas, going into that game. And there seemed to be controversy about him wanting to show up or not. And there you go. Ends up getting traded. And that was the end of the Killer B era right there. So, yeah, there we go. And those are things we got to look at right now. I think for the Steelers, like I said, I remember, just to recap everyone who is just tuning in right now, it's either a Steelers win or tie plus a Titans loss, or a Steelers win plus a Titans loss or tie, or a Steelers and Titans lose. The Jaguars need to lose to the Colts. Raiders would need to lose to the Broncos to get in. Or if the Steelers, Titans lose, Jaguars lose to the Colts, but the Raiders do win, Steelers would need help from losses by the Bears, Lions, Chargers, and Patriots would all have to lose. And those are your playoff scenarios. I'm hoping right now for the easiest scenario that they take care of. And let's be honest, this is not a winnable scenario against Baltimore. I don't care what anyone says. I tell you what, Steeler Nation, I don't know about you, but anybody missing playing that final game against Cleveland in Week 17 where it's at home in Pittsburgh or in Cleveland? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to say I do right now. I mean, of course, not the current Browns team, but I'm talking about the Browns in the past. It'd be a little bit more of a tougher situation this time around against this current group. I tell you what, this is not going to be easy right now. I mean, and just to recap, too, who the Ravens are going to be having sitting out in this game, which Adam Schefter reported on Monday that quarterback Lamar Jackson, running back Mark Ingram, free safety Earl Thomas, right guard Marshall Yanda, and defensive tackle Brandon Williams will be inactive against the Steelers on Sunday. And we'll see where that goes. But remember, too, I mean, when you're looking at those guys who they just named, I mean, those are just like 5 key guys right there. You still got to reckon with some of these other guys on the defense. And speaking of which, let's go to the injury report right now as we take a look at it here. It's Charles Prodigy here on the Man of Steel podcast. Let's see the latest injury report that was put out by Missy Matthews. As far as the Steelers go in the Week 17, and this is a practice report for the last 2 days. So all the starters that you had on here, when you looked at it, they had about 11 guys on here. And the guys who were injury related. More in particular, there was 4 guys and two guys just came up today. One of them being non-injury related, but on Christmas Day, it was announced that Steven Nelson, right cornerback, James Conner, running back, and Marquise Pouncey, the guys who were already aware, but except for Steven Nelson had a groin. He did not practice, but he was able to practice today on Thursday. Then you also have running back James Conner with the quad injury. He did not practice back-to-back days on Thursday. I probably safe to say he's probably questionable. He's playing on Sunday. And, of course, you got Marquise Pouncey, who didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, to tell you the truth. And I'm just getting ready to double check. I think I made a typo on that one, but let's take a look and see what Mr. Matthews had to say on that one regarding the injury report. And Marquise Pouncey, let's see. So he didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday. And then, of course, you also had that showed up on today's report was Joe Hayden and Ramon Foster. Joe Hayden had a foot injury. He didn't practice today. And Ramon Foster was non-injury related. But everybody else on here, aside from those 5 guys I mentioned, Mark Barron, who was non-injury related, he practiced. He was full participant. You also had David DeCastro, right guard. He was full participant. They also had Alejandro Villanueva, full participant. Vance McDowell, full participant. TJ Watt, full participant. Cam Hayward, full participant. And that's about it. And that's what you got for the Steelers. Now, as it pertains to the Ravens going into this game right now, I mean, one of the guys who is an interesting one who's on this list, I was mentioning them earlier, Jimmy Smith, who's been dealing with a groin injury. He did not practice on Wednesday, but he was limited participant today in practice. And, of course, you had Brandon Williams and Chris Wormley, not injury related. They did not practice, but I think the biggest one to be looking on that list, I mean, of course, would be Jimmy Smith. And I would not mind him not being available this Sunday. I mean, going to the final week. I mean, he's been pretty legit against the Steelers, especially against a guy like Ben Roethlisberger when you look at it. I mean, he's a pretty big lockdown corner against these guys when playing Steelers-Ravens football, AFC North football. And I'll be honest with you, if that's one guy who I fear the most, it will definitely be Jimmy Smith. If he is available playing, that's one guy who I do not want to be making mistakes against, especially when you're trying to fight for your playoff lives right now, and we'll see where it goes. But that's just really how you gotta look at it. I mean, no matter how you slice it here. And I just think the Steelers right now, I mean, you're just riding a big-time wave of motion as far as how everything has just went down. But like I said, despite how everything's transpired, did you really honestly, like I said, I'm going to pose a question once again. Did you honestly expect that Mike Tomlin will survive not having a losing record at all ever in this season? I mean, this guy is guaranteed to go 8-8 at least if they don't make the playoffs. More than likely, back-to-back 9-winning seasons. I mean, not 9-win seasons. It'll be the 3rd overall. I mean, last year being 9.5, but that's about it. So let's get ready to rack up real quick with some rapid fire. A fair or foul here to close out the Mass Steel podcast. Fair, and also real quick, before we get going right now, let's pay a little shout and congratulations to TJ Watt earning first-time team honors of Steeler MVP right now in the history of the Steeler franchise. I mean, this guy who has just been an incredible beast right now, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, just overall, I mean, this guy has, I mean, for the year, I want to say he has like about 13.5 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, TJ Watt, I mean, this guy, he's still got potential right now. And let's get into the fair foul topic number 1 with TJ Watt. And this guy has just been a true grinder, just like his brother, JJ. But, I mean, a guy who's got 14 sacks, so not 13, 14 sacks, career high. If the Steelers make the playoffs, T.J. Watt could be NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Fair or foul? I'm going to say fair on that one, only because when you look at the other candidates here, I mean, for this year, I mean, when you look at on defense and overall, like what players are doing across the league, and you look at the sack totals, I mean, right now, I mean, you got T.J. Watt, I mean, ranking in there at number 5 in sacks, first in the AFC with 14. Chandler Jones leads everybody with 19 sacks. I'll be interested to see if he'll be able to get the sack record in the season with 22.5. But, yeah, I think that's very legit right there. I think he's got to be the guy. So we'll see. Fair or foul topic number 2. Texans head coach Bill O'Brien at some point will rest his starters on Sunday. And I will say fair on that one as well. Listen, this is a guy who's still playing to win, but he did not promise or assure anyone. I mean, of course, this is the final game of the season. Don't think for one moment they're not going to be scoreboard watching that Chiefs and Chargers game. Because remember, this is a Texans team right now who could only go no higher than number 3. So if you get in, the Steelers do get in, you'd be having the battle of the Watt brothers in that game. So let's keep that in mind. But I'm just, we'll see. And then fair topic number 3, Steelers will end up facing the Chiefs in the wild card round. I'll say foul. I think they can make the playoffs. But I have a feeling more than anything, it'll probably be against the Texans more so than Chiefs. And so that's going to call it for a wrap for this edition of the Men of Steel podcast. Once again, you catch me streaming live here every Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I can be followed on social media, on Twitter, at Prodigy Richie, at Men of Steel, CJR, Instagram, Men of Steel Nation. Of course, my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. And then you can also check me out on my Facebook page. Once you search me and like my page, instead of typing in Men of Steel Podcast, you can do at Men of Steel Nation. That's capital M, capital N, capital S. And like I said, we're less than 3 days away. Keep our fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, as always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.